Merhaba and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Şehribanu, and welcome to the Music, Community and Applied Ethnomusicology in Turkey and Beyond event. I'm an Arts and Culture Assistant here, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all here today. We are gathered for a very exclusive talk that will explore the rich field of applied ethnomusicology and its impact on communities both in Turkey and around the world. Our esteemed guests Olcay Muslu and Huib Schippers will share their valuable insights and experiences, particularly their collaborative efforts with MİRAS Centre for Cultural Sustainability. This fantastic event is brought to you by Yunus Emre Institute London, Turkey's Cultural Diplomacy Institute. Our work is dedicated to cultural exchange and teaching of Turkish arts and culture, as well as the language. The agenda tonight is Huib Schippers will present for about 20 minutes, and we will listen Olcay Muslu afterwards, and we will have a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions, you will get to ask at the end of the event, and later we will serve Turkish refreshments. Without further ado, give a round of applause, Huib Schippers, and enjoy.
Thank you so much. This is quite informal here tonight. And thank you so much for coming, because applied ethnomusicology is hardly an audience here like for the history. We explained from the beginning that we're working from, we are people that are very interested in music, and music in all different forms and varieties. And in the past 30 years or so, we see a shift in people that just study music for its own sake in a very theoretical way, to people that work with communities and then say, how can we give back to communities from the work that we've done? And this is not unique, because in reality this goes back to the roots. But there's a new trend since the 1990s of looking at musicology not in a sort of old 19th century German way as a remote, trying to stay as objective and remote as possible, but getting engaged with people. One of the organizations that we've done, and what we'll do for the title of our presentation is Music, Communities and Applied Ethnomusicology in Turkey and Beyond. And for tonight we've decided to turn this around. So I'll do the Beyond, and then also I will talk about the work in Turkey, including the work of MİRAS, that you mentioned. We are working in the earthquake zone where we also have a lot of connection. And we will explain how we try to apply that work in a very practical environment, and in an absolutely hard-to-understand environment where we still go everywhere. But let me start from another side. About 20 years ago, the UNESCO made a convention on the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage in 2003. And that was quite a courageous thing to do for UNESCO. UNESCO is a very bureaucratic organization, and it has to be because it is controlled by states, by nation states, by governments. And of course, before 2003, they already looked extensively at tangible cultural heritage, the pyramids, the Taj Mahal, all these different tangible things, which are much easier to protect and also much easier to see as well. So if the building is still standing after a while, but your purpose is still there, then you've done your work. With music and with theatre and with poetry and with bastard reading, it's much more complicated to see if the works work. So for more than 20 years, I'll put it. This is my focus, and I'm going to teach you the so what was the result of the is that they would engage intellectually with something that was so intangible, that was very different. Of course, before 2003, there were many efforts to safeguard intangible cultural heritage. Any money or any support from the king that goes to safeguarding a particular tradition of safeguarding intangible cultural heritage. So the patronage by kings, with subsidies by governments, there are all forms of supporting the national population. But thinking as we try to think about it in a more coherent way, and also in a more scientific way, if you like. So, when you do things like this, the first of the it's a really problem. As academics, we always say, well, this to say, but it's a really problem. We think there is. Many of us who work in music are blessed to come across these many great musicians from different backgrounds. They're given the opportunity, many musicians will start complaining about how they or their traditions are not sufficiently appreciated. My field is my primary field is Indian classical music, and I've also worked in Western classical music, and I've worked in Africa, and in the Caribbean, and in America. And interestingly, all musicians complain that their work is not good. Also when there is an opera or an orchestra. So it seems to be that music across the world and across the era like complaining. What do they usually say? There's not enough concerts, there's not enough festivals, there's too little media exposure, there's not enough money, there's not enough audiences, and too few people are seriously interested to learn. And this is not something of this kind. So in Indian music, I've got manuscripts from 1864 that Carmen Mann says, oh, the greatest stars, the great masters, they know their music, but look at their sons, they're playing the same shit. And this goes on from generation to generation to generation. So complaining seems to be, while music is a beautiful thing that musical, complaining is a very important part of a musician's life. But is that really the full story? It's easy that in fact people around the world engage with the music that speaks to them all the time and in many different ways. So one of the important things we tend to realize is that this time that we're living now, more people have more access to more music in more ways than any other time in the history of humankind. Johann Sebastian Bach, the great 18th century composer, had to walk through the rain for 2 days to hear which to play in Huib. And then left the show before he came back. If I were to hear a composition by Huib Schippers, I would look it up on my phone and I think it's only to my lap. And it's not only classical music, it's also any form of pop music. It is, if I want to hear Ragoba music in Tanzania, it's Hatay and Ragoba music in Tanzania. So all of us, and particularly the generation younger than us, have very easy access to music all over the place. There's no time in the history of the world that this has happened. So in 2020, most people in the world can curate their own musical experiences like never before. If you look in a village in Turkey 100 years ago, it was pretty much dependent on who lived in that village, which actors happened to come by and play their music, and the sounds that you would ever hear a symphony orchestra, let alone a Caribbean band, was almost zero. And now we have access to all of that music. We can see this in the history of the recorded music industry of the past 30 years. This was about 50 years ago. This is beautiful. This is beautiful graph of the music revenue comes from the past 70 years. So it started with LPs, as many of you will remember. Then it turned into cassettes, which is the light blue. Then this was the CD era. And this is where streaming downloads, this is the history of downloads, and this is the history of streaming. And while in the early 2010s we thought that the music industry was really going down, and it was going to go down, you can see that now it has gone back up. And this is not the number of listens, this is the income coming from listening. So, and as a streaming has very low income, which represents many more listens than the previous peak in 2000. So the music industry thought it was going down and it has to go down. And it's very clever in buying up all the free services. If you look at the real numbers, they are really quite staggering. In 2021, so it's my last data, it's just calculated that over 1.1 trillion tracks were streamed. That is a lot of tracks. The most streamed tracks were Taylor Swift, as you can imagine, Bad Bunny, who is a reggaeton, Puerto Rico, and BTS, which is a K-pop. Bad Bunny, in itself had more than 9 billion strings. That means that there's more strings than there are people in the world. So theoretically, everybody has worked out Spotify offers over 100 million songs online and has almost 600 million paying subscribers. Average listening to streams is 75 minutes a day, almost 100 minutes for 60 to 74-year-olds. A very substantial global music pie, which is like 50 to 60 billion dollars per annum, is not divided equitably, however. Recorded music accounts for about 30 billion, which is half of it, but artists only earn 1/3 of a cent per string track. And if you want to replicate it in America or in Tokyo, and I could tell this is great, you can listen to 30,000 times, here's 10 of them. So it's a very depressing thing for students. Before we used to make about 70 cents per track. They took that all the way from the beginning to download. But we're seeing the economic picture and with that also the prevalence of the artists who used to use their tours to sell their CDs and now they're using their online listening to their tours. So Taylor Swift, I'm happy to tell you, is over $1 billion per tour. That is a lot of money. That's still over a small country. So some music does reach vast audiences, but many, mostly smaller music cultures, have been at risk of disappearing or what my colleague Chinese music calls being disappeared due to major changes in the world over the past 100 years or so, including development of technology, ideologies, religion, politics, ecology, and migration. Which is the next slide. We as ethnomusicologists are very concerned about smaller things. We know that music will not die. People from the very earliest time we know about music, we know that people engage with music. They will not stop engaging with music. They will not stop engaging with music. Technology dies, formal schooling dies, everybody has always made music. This is a wonderful thing. This is quite a miraculous thing, because we don't really need music as our primary survival needs. Well, we need the wind, and we need water, and we need food, and we need shelter, and we need to procreate in order to keep the species alive. But we don't need music for that. You never hear that there's a police sounding old lady in her apartment and she dies from music deprivation. But still, almost everybody, in every culture, in every era that we know, engages with music in some way or another. Sometimes it's complicated, there may be religious reasons for it to be complicated, there may be societal reasons for it to be complicated, but almost everybody engages with music in very, very long terms to people just before they move on to whatever the next one is. So it's really quite fascinating to be looking at sustainability of music, a thing that is sustainable in itself because humans are linked to it. So, if we do that anyway, what did the convention, the UNESCO Convention, really add? As I said, there have always been many ways to support music practices, from patronage to subsidy. But the convention brought international awareness and much greater understanding of intangible cultural heritage. So everybody thought, yes, music is kind of important, but we only started thinking, why is it important, in what way is it important, how do we keep these smaller traditions alive as well as the bigger traditions through the efforts of UNESCO. What is also important that usually the decisions are made by rich people or political people, and here non-political experts acknowledge the need to safeguard or rather sustain, in our words, certain specific traditions. And finally, what is really important is they recognize communities as the central players in music sustainability, at least in principle. So when San Marino joined as the 181st signatory, they made a press release saying, speaking of a worldwide international network committed to supporting communities in the safeguarding of their living heritage. But as we are critical people, we ask, is that really true? Are we really putting communities at the center? So, we had a conference, organized a conference that was organized to invest in this year, the Smithsonian in 2019, where we invited all the people first draft of the convention, there was about 10 years of work before that, communities were empowered to decide on which directions to put forward, how to plan for their support, and how to execute that support. But their role was much weakened in the final text. So first it was the communities decide, then it was the communities advise, and then the communities are consulted, and finally that the communities are just being informed. So, and then since the convention, the last 20 years, we've seen that a great deal has been achieved in many nation states, but the tension between the perspectives and ways of working of public authorities, the nation states, the government, and those of the communities continue to face challenges to being true to the essence of the convention. So politicians want liquid, so they want a particular position to be appreciated and recognized just because of what they've generated. A community has a very different view of that. There may be 7 different versions of a particular Hindu Nizam, and they will say that only one of them will be recognized. Which means that 6 of them won't be recognized, and the rest is too many. So we see that many mechanisms came into being that were actually instrumental to the diversity of the traditions rather than supporting. Overall, it's been a very good thing, but it's also quite dangerous. So the pros and cons. First of all, as I mentioned before, we've been very successful in raising the international awareness of music as I feel. That music is something that has traditions, and you can do coherent work to protect it. 181 nation states have signed up to the convention, which is very, very high. That's almost universal approval. And many of them have invested seriously in finding and recognizing diverse musical expressions, sometimes identifying ways to safeguard them. China, for instance, spends billions of RMB a year on its cultural diversity. We did spend 3 months in China at the History Professor at the Western Conservatory in Beijing, and we spoke to many people involved there, and the Chinese government, which is usually depicted as a terrible government, but they do some really, really good work as well. And they have made incredible inventories, not only of the traditions that need to be sustained, but also of the cultural barriers, so the people that carry those traditions, because those traditions are not written down very often. And they found ways of supporting those traditions within the community. One of the most beautiful initiatives they have are areas of musical equality, where they support the music and the community in their village, but also the natural environment that keeps the village and keeps the culture of the village. And in that sense, way ahead of almost everybody else in the world. On the more negative side, it was recognized that ICH is rooted in community, but nation states rather than communities make the selections and decisions, taking away agency from the people whom the music means most. That's a rather serious thing, that politics becomes more important than the music of the people. And at least as important as that, in terms of concrete action, it was easier to approach music actually as things rather than as living traditions that are nurtured by an inconvenient complex of social, cultural, and economic factors. So if you try to preserve something, if you try to preserve a music, you can say we'll notate it and we'll put it in an archive, great, we preserved it. Or you can say we record it and we put it in an archive to say, great, we preserved it. You can even make a video, you can make an interview and put it in an archive. But certainly you preserve something of that music, but it's like a picture of something that's moving. So it still doesn't have the depth. My own learning of Indian classical music, which took me 20 years at the teaching of a master, I could only learn that music because I spent that much time with the master. Because there is no adequate description of how a raga works. Only if you sit with somebody for 20 years and you play for them and you say, yes, that is great, what you're doing there, and that is not great, what you're doing there. Only in that way can you seriously learn how a tradition goes. So the risk of saying, as soon as we archive the tradition to this degree is quite risky. So my is a single product. This was circulating with different products from Ethnomusicology now speaks about the musical museum, how we create different types of music like a museum, but also on the camera. So there's a fixed sound, words, and every time our music is just to show off what we have from performance practice as well. But considering them as single products is quite dangerous, and in our view it makes more sense to see them as part of a very complex cultural ecosystem in which many forces impact on the vitality and sustainability of any music practice. And that also brings us back to the grumpy musicians at the beginning. They always say, oh, look at this money, or it's not complete. But if you analyze those things, you can see that there are 5 areas in which there can be trouble. And this is the result of I was professor in Australia when I started working on this, and we found a very big round to work with 19 across the world, from Egyptian people in Central Australia to Western opera, from Ghanaian dance drumming to Indian classical music, to look across all these different music because we could understand what their cultural ecosystem was. And the definition of the conclusion we came to, because there are 5 domains that you could look at, and they are healthy, then suddenly a musical tradition is healthy. One is musicians and community. How do the community engage with music and with those who make the music? In some cultures, musicians have very, very high status. In other cultures, they're very low status. And in some cultures, they get paid a lot. In other cultures, they don't get paid at all. In some cultures, they're even persecuted. So this is very important. How do people look at music? Then there are systems of learning music. How do people learn to make music, and what and where do they build their learning? It can be in a formal environment, like a conservatory or a program study, or it can be with a master, like with a live study. But it can also be in a class setting, where there's a lot of great musicians coming out who study with YouTube and with online resources, and become quite competent musicians. Then there's infrastructure regulations, which is, if you like, the hardware, the software of music making. Infrastructure are the concert halls and the conservatories that we use, but also the instruments that we use, so the physical things that we use. And regulations are the laws which are the positive laws or negative laws. So there can be laws that subsidies and grants, and there can also be laws that make noise pollution illegal, or censorship laws, or laws that limit the movement of musicians from one place to another. Then there's media and the music industry, and I showed you an example of that already. So what role do the media, the record industry, and the internet play in the dissemination and income generation of this music? If you have the music industry behind you, is a very, very powerful ally. Some very small music, like reggaeton, I talked about that running, you can exist because the music industry says, this is good, we can have a very wide audience for this, and it's very economic. And of course, the internet is becoming the scientific factor and how people access music. Finally, and at the center, but also probably the most complicated one, is context and construct. Context are the environment in which we make music. It could be music for a festival, or music for a guest, or music for enjoyment, or music for particular social occasions, or religious occasions. Construct is a bit more complicated and quite important. What are the underlying values prepare it as like a sustainability. So the International Council for Traditional Music and Dance, of which I was active member, defines applied ethnomusicology as the approach guided by principles of social responsibility, which extends the usual academic goal of broadening and deepening knowledge and understanding for solving concrete problems towards working both inside and beyond typical academic context. So we work, I was a professor for 13 years in Australia and worked within that context, but it was welcomed that I did many projects outside. So we organized festivals in which we were visible, we invited communities to work with them. And this has been developing quite intensely over the past 30-something years. Much of the thinking and writing, including what I just presented about applied ethnomusicology, comes from Europe and from the US. But as we are in the realm of Turkish culture, as we both based in Istanbul, we wondered how can we explain how the history of applied ethnomusicology works with some from a Turkish context. And this is what I think is important. Thank you so much.
Sorry. I was explaining my connection, how my connection started with the sustainability of traditional music and dance in Turkey. I was doing my PhD fieldwork in Domaniç, Kütahya's town. Maybe some of you are familiar. I realized that traditional music and dances are facing disappearing, so it was in danger. So I went back to ITU. I'm coming from Istanbul Technical University, Turkish Music State Conservatory, and I tried to find ways in different models and by involving many different stakeholders. Applied ethnomusicology is actually quite inclusive discipline. Applied ethnomusicologists are working on finding different ways to sustain traditional cultures. So in Turkey, which concept, in that particular context, what can I do, what kind of things I can develop? I develop a specific model for a specific region, but in this seminar I will continue how applied ethnomusicology actually started in Turkey and when. Because, as you know, terminology starts a bit later. So, as an applied ethnomusicology, this one. Okay. Actually, what we call applied ethnomusicology started much earlier. So, we think applied ethnomusicology as a discipline in Turkey started after 2000 in the schools, in institutions. But, in fact, much of the earlier study of traditional music can be seen as applied work in our country. So, Atatürk and his music reforms brought actually explains very well. He said, "I wonder which is the national one for us. Folk music is our culture, and the Western music is the music of our new civilization. Therefore, neither of them is alien to us. Therefore, our national music will give birth from the meaning of the folk music of our land and the Western music. Our folk music gave us plenty melodies. If we gather them and harmonize them within the Western musical form, we would have a national and a European music. The idea of Turkism in the musical field is based on this, and the rest will belong to our national musicians." So this ideology brought first compilation studies with his invitations for the composers. So what you see on the slide is the picture of Bela Bartok with Ahmet Adnan Saygun on the field, influenced by the Young Republic's leading ideology Ziya Gökalp, who identified Anatolian folk music as healthy music. So Bela Bartok and Adnan Saygun on Anatolian folk music compilation tour in 1936 on the left side. And this picture on the right side is quite well known in Turkey. Bela Bartok, who is the Hungarian composer and folklorist, during his Turkish folk music field research with the local people of Adana, Osmaniye. So actually what they were doing, it was an applied work. But they were known as folklorists, folk musician, the folk music studies was named in institutions, many institutions. So Ahmet Adnan Saygun used the term ethnomusicology to cover both those working in the fields of music folklore and comparative musicology in 1960. Although Saygun didn't include ethnomusicology in his later activities, he was an important part and pioneer of ethnomusicology studies, which many people don't know, and institutionalization in Turkey until his death in 1991. In addition to that, he was one of the key composers and musicologists who helped to build a new music reforms. Saygun, in his short article titled Turkish Ethnomusicology, attributes the reason for the lack of publications in this field to financial difficulties, and says that financial difficulties prevent ethnomusicologists from presenting the results of their studies to world ethnomusicologists. And what we know is ICTMD as an organization today. Actually, he was the first Turkish executive member of the group, then known as IFMC. The post-1940s period witnessed the creation of a large dance and music sector in Turkey, which occurred due to the compiling of traditional dances and music, as well as the organization of national dance and music competitions and stage shows. Together, these factors contributed towards an applied agenda in which traditional dance and music could be considered as sustainable. Today, the safeguarding of practices within cultural environments mainly focuses on preserving and continuing cultural identity. In this respect, both tangible and intangible values are embedded within the components of cultural, technological, and economic interactions, local administrations, and cultural politics. In addition, cultural organizations, tourism, education, and the transmission of cultural expressions have also gained significance. Early applied ethnomusicology projects actually started with Mustafa Sarı Sözen, a folk song a day program. There were approximately 5,000 registered radio sets in Turkey, and these radios broadcasted educational programs that focused on the new Turkish language, history, and folklore, as well as the newly approved musical genres representing Turkey's European identity. In keeping with this trend, Eastern music was banned from state radio airwaves in 1934. These programs, called We Are Learning a Folk Song, continued their activities in line with Muzaffer Sarı Sözen's conducting and repertoire teaching. The program was created with the aim of teaching a folk song to both radio listeners and artists every week for half an hour. In 1936, the Ministry of Education, the State Conservatory, and the State Radio joined forces to mold Turkish folk music, using the expertise of Muzaffer Sarı Sözen, a music teacher from the town of Sivas. Also, Muzaffer Sarı Sözen started Yurttan Sesler Choir, was established independently under the conductorship of him in 1947. Institutionalization of ethnomusicology, the increasing role of Turkish music conservatories after Republican period showed how important applied work was for music sustainability in Turkey. For example, the School for Music Teachers was established in 1924, Istanbul Municipal Conservatory, Gazi Terbiye, the Ankara Conservatory, İzmir Conservatory, the State Conservatory for Turkish Music. They were all applied works. Istanbul Technical University Turkish Music State Conservatory. This is the example of my field work in Domenici. Yeah, sometimes we forget to use this. Sorry. You make your own research, literature research, and you analyze all the cultural policies, reports, conventions. You know, when we talk about applied ethnomusicology, we talk about the problems of sustainability. So when you if you try to sustain a specific culture, you have to be an activist as a scholar also. This is what Professor Huib Schippers explained. Applied ethnomusicology is performing not only in the academia but also non-academic environment. You have to reach out governmental entities, you have to collaborate with the local authorities, you have to gather with the local people in the villages to understand their dynamism, their culture, which TVs they are watching. So where I was working as a society was very introverted. So first we get together every week, once in a week, in the house gatherings. So they had some house entertainment along with their food, and we did some kind of projects in Istanbul. So there are at least 5 different projects we did together, and the result of them was shared in my publication later on. So TV program, studio recordings. So it was one of the example of in the past, in 2015, completed. Governmental efforts and their international commitments are very important pillar of sustainability works, such as UNESCO conventions. How they contribute to safeguarding intangible cultural heritage and revitalize cultural life in Turkey is today's topic in my part. So Turkey became the 45th country to accept UNESCO Convention for the safeguarding of the intangible cultural heritage on March 27, 2006. The Research and Training General Directorate of the Ministry of Culture and Tourism is the authorized government body for intangible cultural heritage. Turkey is one of 5 out of 181 signatories. It has 18 elements registered on UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage, and the ones related to music, Mevlevi, Sema ceremony, aşıklık, tradition, Nevruz multinational celebrations, traditional sohbet meetings, Urfa sıra geceleri, Semah Alevi Bektaşi ritual, Hıdrellez spring celebrations, Dede Korkut epic culture. There is also Karagöz Hacivat. This year also another new ones just registered. In addition to this, Turkey has also started to recognize living cultural treasures, like in China, Korea, and Japan. The traditional sohbet meetings in the UNESCO representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. In 2009, when we get together in Washington, Smithsonian is to analyze intangible cultural heritage convention, safeguarding intangible cultural heritage conventions from the Turkey point of view, how convention contributes to community. I compared UNESCO and UNESCO-free communities, how a convention affects the traditional practices. If their elements are registered, how is the outcome? If their elements are not registered, how is the outcome? So I compared. So Urfa is actually, they sustain their tradition incredibly successfily, and local people are actually quite aware of their own cultural elements, and they are themselves activists, and there's really important initiations towards the sıra gecesi at that time, and they registered the elements, and we thought, as like ethnomusicologists, you don't need to interfere that culture because by themselves they sustain their culture. So this is one of the example of their traditional practice. I want to put here as a positive example. But there are also different views about if the elements are registered, there are also negative effects of the culture. Like it becomes very touristic. They began to sell the sıra geceleri for €500 per night, stuff like that. So having strong local administrations is important. Having strong local administrations surrounded by folklorist tradition barriers and large number of cultural volunteers has a strong impact on actions towards attempts aimed at cultural safeguarding. The realization of the commercialized version of sıra gecesi did I switch? Not switch? I'm pressing. Okay. The realization of the commercialized version of sıra gecesi energized all cultural stakeholders in the region. The Şanlıurfa Metropolitan Municipality started to implement action plans which formed the infrastructure for a city of music to be achieved through several projects. One of these was the establishment of the Şanlıurfa Conservatory Branch Directorate in 2018, made in accordance with the stated aim of UNESCO 2003 Convention, Article 1. What happens in non-sustainable environment, non-stable environment? So as you all know, so after that we will play. So as you all witnessed, unfortunately we had an incredible tragic event in Turkey. The initial 7.8 magnitude earthquake shook the ground as far away as Egypt. More than 52,000 people, we never know the real numbers, were killed instantly on February 6, 2023. 11 of the 17 provinces in Turkey's south were declared disaster zones. At least 4 million buildings were damaged or destroyed. Hatay province sustained the most severe damage. So what we are going to watch after the slides, I think, is somebody going to play? Yeah, I will just briefly explain what we are going to watch. After the earthquake, can you little bit? Thank you, Gökçen. So until now, we talk about the stable environment when everything goes right, like not so right, but when we don't have a war in our country, when we don't have natural disasters, so we know where to go, how to work. But when there is an extreme event, disasters, things are really from the root changes. And then you have to think about system reset. So we actually came to that point after that. My connection with Hatay started in 2017 when I was asked to establish conservatory in Hatay, Antioch. From ITU, I went to Hatay to set up Turkish music program in Hatay Mustafa Kemal University. And we started education in Turkish music program in 2018. We accepted our first students in 2018, and we gave our first graduate students 2022. August, I'm right, yeah? Sometimes last year I'm saying, 2022 August. Then after that, in February 2023, earthquake happened. Just after 23 August, I resigned from the university because my life is, I have been traveling between Istanbul and Hatay. It has been very, very difficult time for me for the last 7 years. During earthquake, my students and my colleagues and everybody we know, of course, try to reach us. That's a devastating event also made me think, what can I do for my students? What else I can do? So the music you are going to listen is one of the singers from Hatay. Also, right now, one of our teachers in our center, Culture for Sustainability Center in Istanbul. So through the event, she composed this song. So maybe we can listen now. After that, I will explain. Not from the PowerPoint, but from the song itself, please. Yeah, the right one. Can you tell me more about it? Thank you. Now home is, we didn't go, we are here. Many mothers, lost their children, and especially for the first couple of days of the first hit, they couldn't get any help, and they began to walk on the streets with this lyric in Arabic. She's Selin Sümbültepe is singing, and she wrote the song. It's an ode. She lost also her both parents, so when she was really burning in her heart, she wrote this song. And first time they published this on the first anniversary of the earthquake, 7th of February this year. So how did the earthquake affect the sustainability of music practices in Hatay? With a natural disaster, all support structures for music disappear. Virtually every building was destroyed, communities were dispersed. People focused on primary means of survival. Live music performance disappeared, online music was limited, instrument makers and other support structures disappeared. Several applied ethnomusicologists have researched music practices after natural or man-made disasters and developed models and ways of working that best serve the affected communities. The literature and documentary revealed 4 broad categories of intentions or stated goals that underpin many music interventions in conflict-affected settings: music education, cultural regeneration, social development, healing, health and well-being. So I will try to show some of the intentions and ongoing strategies of NGO called MİRAS in a post-earthquake zone in Hatay. So after earthquake, we established a Center for Cultural Sustainability called MİRAS Heritage. It's a non-profit organization. The reason we needed to set up this organization is to be able to help directly to the community, because I was affiliated with the culture, and all the experts we are working with over the years. I was actively involved with academia in the university. I'm still working there, but also I want to be free from the governmental entity, so I can also act as an association, an NGO. So it was around March, or actually it became effective in May legally. We became a legal entity. So we have in our team, we have many different backgrounds, from lawyers to neurologists, ethnomusicologists. We have so many international experts from all over the world who's expert in sustainability. And our aim is to create how can I say, create motivation with the people we have in Istanbul or all over the world to help Hatay to sustain their traditional music and traditional cultural practices. Especially we are working with the musicians from Hatay. So when we go to Hatay, we also give workshops in primary schools, secondary schools, and we are trying to reach also adults in container villages. So we came, one of our project called SÖZ. SÖZ project has long-term music activities for 4 target groups, for children, adolescents in schools and containers and container villages, and the elderly in aged care facilities. The person, Asım Kuzuluk, he's specialized in barak türküleri, barak folk music. He's from Hatay. We are collaborating with him also. They need more than one of entertainment, of course. The people in Hatay, they need to see that helps and teachers and social activities more than one time. So it's very difficult to continue to sustain our activities, but we are trying to find many different ways. And one of them, actually, we collaborated with the Ministry of National Education Directorate of Hatay. So we can, as NGO, as MİRAS, we can work with many different schools legally, confirmed by the local governments. And we aim education, research studies, cultural sustainability and well-being, 4 different areas. There are some instrument makers in different villages, Kırıkan, I don't know if anybody knows Hatay. Unfortunately, their profession was affected badly because many instrument stores also disappeared, they collapsed. And he was making instrument bağlama, and if there is no customers, he won't sell any bağlama. So Ahmet Usta's job is in danger of disappearing. So I'm trying to reach many people. If anybody needs bağlama, please reach out Ahmet Usta and order bağlama. And there are also many young musicians from conservatory, from fine arts high school, also from the music industry working there, or venue halls, the restaurant halls, owners. There is absolutely nothing left in Antioch. Not even standing building, and there are life outside of Antioch, Hatay, Serinyol especially, is where many people are living. Our students after May began to think about, to think a little bit, because as a musicians are musicianship is incredibly difficult profession in times of disasters. So if they sing, they feel guilty. How can I sing now? Because this is an entertainment. And we have been talking with them to understand their psychology. Also, people are, in the recovery process at the moment. And so we started online programs to talk about musicians scattered around country. What are they doing? What do they need? And also, as MİRAS, we are going to organize ICTMD Applied Ethnomusicology Conference with the collaboration of Sacred Music in next October. This is also international academia is going to come to Istanbul. As MİRAS, we are organizing this. For example, this support platform for Hatay musicians brought so much. It was quite effective. It was our online on Instagram, MİRAS's Instagram account. We reach out many musicians, and they share their feelings and they share their needs. So many people from different profession or different cities can also contact with them. We give chance to people to tell their needs, and we try to also provide their wishes. So on the 8th of March, as we talk about Women's Day, women's rights, and we always try to emphasize the subjects on Hatay, how women situations are in Hatay and what else we can do. So this is the bağlama maker Ahmet Usta on the left side up, and this is the next international conference we are going to host in Istanbul. It is Applied Ethnomusicology and Sacred Spiritual Music. There are many things, many different areas we are trying to be active, and in a way when there is no stability in a country, how applied ethnomusicology projects can work. In a way, we are also trying to find the best way to be more useful. So I'm going to show a little video. We went to Yayladağ Village, Bezge köyü, Bezge Village, Bezge İlköğretim Okulu Primary School, and we went to Meydan Village last month, and art, music, dance and rhythm workshops we are doing with the little kids in the primary school, and this is the little example of that workshop. If anybody can play the video. Gökçe Hanım is there? Okay. It's a 1 minute video. can you switch on PowerPoint? Okay, we will try to show that applied work in the study of music in Turkey goes back 100 years and continues to be highly relevant in initiatives such as MİRAS, which strives to use the national and international experience in working with communities to benefit the people affected by the earthquake, to improve their sense of community, regain a sense of well-being after great suffering and reconnect to their sense of place. So it was all from my side. Thank you very much for listening. For anybody who wants to read more, especially about the model and this, it's published by Oxford University Press, Music Community Sustainability, my chapter in there. And also I have a couple of more about music in higher education where I am working.
Thank you very much for the inspiring talk and all the work that you are doing. Quite impressive, honestly. We would like to open up the floor for the Q&A session now. If you have any questions.
Which procession was this first video clip? Was procession? And this girl sing this beautiful song. Which kind of procession was this?
It was a protest. After, so 1 year, we go back to Hatay all the time, and we see that the progress in restoring Hatay is very, very painfully slow. And there's a strong feeling amongst the people of Hatay who are very proud to be from there and who don't want to leave their place, that there is a concerted effort to keep them away from that. We have a house there, and it is so difficult to keep your house and to have it restored. We've got a beautiful old Ottoman house there, and if Olcay hadn't been as clever as she is, it would have been destroyed by now. There was no water, no electricity in the entire center for the entire year. So there's a lot of voices saying something needs to happen in Hatay in order to restore it to its old glory, because surely over time the buildings will be restored. But the reason why we started MİRAS is that we think that there is a rebuilding beyond bricks that you need, a rebuilding of community, a rebuilding of culture, of being proud of where you're from. So, and there's a lot of work to be done in that area, and sometimes
it is very difficult to understand the situation from outside. Even people in Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir, they think life is still, life is normal now because they can't see on the media anymore. It's not on the news anymore. But when you go back to Antioch, it is really not, no development whatsoever. Still in the mud, there is no electricity after 6 o'clock. There is an incredible high level of looter. We got burgled many times, and you can't prevent this. But people from Hatay, you don't have to be from Hatay. Like I don't have any relation whatsoever with Hatay until I started working there. But when you see the pain and incredible, how can I describe the feel? They lost everything and they need help. And they were once had so many properties and rich and academical profession. Life sometimes shakes us to remind us that you are nothing and you can be nothing. And in the time of these difficulties, people need to really stubborn and stable to continue helping those who need help. We should really not have luxury to forget people. And I know there are so many disasters, so many bad things happening in the world, but in Hatay, every time you go back, there are so many things to do, so many things that we should really be loud and help. And the people are so decisive. People from Hatay, they say only people from Hatay will revitalize this town, because people from outside, they see like us outsider, cannot continue, cannot do anything so much because we are living in Istanbul, we come and go, but we are trying to create awareness, and we are trying to reach people with whatever we can do with our expertise and as people, as just human. So because I know some people and I have some knowledge of how to continue intangible cultural heritage, sustainability, whatever, and we can also reach international organizations and let people know what happened. You know, people even don't know where Hatay is. Even coming here to talk about this is also impact. But the reason they say we are not going anywhere, we didn't go anywhere. But sometimes the local governments are saying that circumstances are incredibly difficult, so you have to leave. You know, but they don't want to leave because at the moment they go, looters are coming in. So they don't want to lose their territory, their shop, whatever they have left. So they are willing to live in the tents, in the mud. So there are some high school fine arts students right now living in the tents, and their mother and father, whoever left in the family, and their teachers, over the night they wait until morning so they can sleep in the tent. But the tent is incredibly unhealthy, and sometimes rains and the cold, and during the daytime they go to their container and they try to learn music. And for example, the first slide I showed, Karsu is there. It was a first opening ceremony from Serinyol LLA Association Music Community Music House, and they, with the incredible effort, they collected music instruments from Amsterdam. People donated many instruments, and Karsu's mother and father collected all of them, and they brought from Amsterdam to Hatay. And they provided music instruments for the children. There is like right now 1,000 children registered to that music school. They want to learn, they want to continue their life, they want to be normalize their life. But still, there are so many, you know, we are hearing the instruments are broken and they need to find some repairman. I have a donor wants to donate her piano from Istanbul. I don't have a logistic to send the piano to Hatay. So we need so many things to help each other. So what we are talking like applied ethnomusicology, applied ethnomusicology is here to be able to help for sustaining cultures. So without, if I could have been somebody from UNESCO. So if you are somebody from UNESCO, you also have different ways to reach to that end. If you are a non-academic person, as a tradition bearer, you also have a role in the society, so you can also contribute from that sense. When I was trying to show the model for Domaniç area, I tried to show from everybody's perspective. If you are an academic, you can do this, you can do that. If you are working in the municipality, you can start from your own local authority and reach other people. And we talk about problems and solutions, and as you know, academic people and also as human, we are trying to share our thoughts so we can collaborate with each other and help to others. So this seminar was about that. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you also touch each other after this evening.
Any other questions?
Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the great work you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
Just what I see here in London, street music. You can encourage street music there. Mm-hmm. You don't need to make concert and hire plays. Musician can go to the street and then collect some money. So
in Hatay, it's a bit difficult.
Everywhere.
We have no streets left in Hatay.
There is no streets, no people. The environment, that's why there are some musicians left. If only I can give some interviews, but I had to translate, of course. But Outside of the city, there are some musicians and singing in the cafes, but the population is less right now, and people are coming to cafe at night, maybe a couple of days in a week, and what do they earn is not enough to look after the families. And many people also went to Antalya, tourism areas. Many people left Hatay. But we can, I think being a street musician is a good idea, but in different cities maybe it will work. For some of them it will work.
Any other questions? Yes?
I guess this is about your research long before the Hatay disaster, when you were looking at traditional dances that were performed by men as opposed to the ones performed by women. Did you make much progress in that area?
We did actually, especially in introverted society like Dominic, our elderly aunties, elderly people host the traditional heritage because young people left out migration affected area. So first they were incredibly shy to even share their knowledge. Then when they trust you and they began to show, they began to sing. Because of also religious thoughts, the restrictions in religion, it prevents them to sing. So it was a big barrier for me to understand and to record many things. But at the end, some of them are really nomadic villages. Those ladies also, actually they hold very important information about the real traditional nomadic songs. So I arranged actually house gatherings with them. I recorded the songs and we did dance, and some of them with a couple of months begging, they accepted to come to Istanbul. And some of them taught to our ITU folk dance students their own dances. So we recorded. But apart from that recording and safeguarding projects, I established association in that region.
Sure.
The question was about men.
Men or women, I understood.
No, it was actually the fact that, in cultural anthropology for over a century, there's been a need for female anthropologists to do exactly this kind of work on every single possible level, because women's history has been erased by the fact that male academics will go into an area, they can't learn anything because the women won't be able to speak to them.
Yes, gender discrimination issues everywhere, especially in Anatolian villages.
And this is why it's so important to bring more women into cultural anthropology and ethnomusicology, because these things will be lost forever unless there's researchers that can go in and learn from the inside source.
Yes.
So I'm very grateful for your work.
Olcay had an added advantage that she comes from the area, so that's through her family.
Because I knew also you have to, really it's a big effort from the researchers. You have to live in there, you have to, separate some time of your life, and you have to understand what they are watching. So I figured out they are watching a specific TV channel called Vizyon Türk.
Sure.
I had no idea. And I learned where is the center of this Vizyon Türk TV channel, and I learned it was in Istanbul. And I spoke with the production manager. I asked if we can also film a specific documentary for Domanic traditional music and dances. And we convinced some of the villagers. We brought them from Domanic to Istanbul. We made a completed Domanic culture program. So because whole region, North Asian side of Turkey is watching Vizyon Türk. So there are some details when you do research. You have to you have to figure out what is going on in the societies, social research. Fieldwork is very important. So the similar kind of projects are created, and I believe it motivated some of the local villagers to continue and to be more courageous about speaking out, and singing is not very bad. But of course, who are we that we are claiming that I did this, thanks to me, their culture is being saved? Of course, we can't say this. If it is going to be disappeared, it is going to be disappeared.
But I mean, one of the points that you made in one of your writings was that it was easier for you to learn the men's dances because you could see them from inside the house, and they were performed outside, than the women's dances, which were performed in private sessions.
Yes.
And so that's why your research is so important.
Oh, thank you. It's so good to hear from me. Thank you so much.
You. Behind you, there was a question. Another question.
Yes, I wasn't sure whether to ask this question. If it doesn't seem a meaningful question, just set aside. But early in the first presentation that you gave, you said, well, we don't hear about, or it won't ever be reported that a person has died of music deprivation. I mean, to me it makes good sense that people might die of music deprivation, and I wondered if you could tell us a bit more what your understanding of music deprivation is. I can well understand that the instrument maker has intense music deprivation in the film because he or she can no longer make the instrument, but in maybe a wider sense, how does music deprivation impact on our lives?
I doubt if there's a lot of research about this. I used the example of music deprivation to make clear of how naturally we accept that music is part of our lives, and how rarely we see the absence of it as a reason for us not feeling very well. And our work in Hatay is actually a very good example of where music was ripped out of people's lives. I mean, everything was ripped out of people's lives. Mukhtar, the person who takes care of our area, lost 67 relatives in 10 minutes. He dragged his nieces from under the rubble, hoping that he would save her, and she was dead in his arms. So we've heard and seen unspeakable pain for people. And we know that music comforts people. There's so much music. Interestingly, there's actually more music that comforts people than music that expresses joy. So we use music from very young on to very old to comfort ourselves, to feel connected to the world, to the universe, to God, to our family, to our communities. And seeing that ripped away from people is something that we feel is a real danger for the community. So I do not know of any doctor who would ever have written music deprivation as cause of death for anyone. But I think we can all understand that the deprivation of music, especially in a time that when people are suffering, makes things worse for people.
Maybe some doctors should be.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's a really interesting research.
Sorry to interrupt, but we know from Turkey that some of the doctors are actually prescribing music as a therapy to many patients. Actually, this has been going on for many years. Actually,
and not only in Turkey.
In the history, in the Ottoman history, you can see where music is used as a therapy.
Therapeutic, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I ask another comment?
All right.
I talked before.
Yeah, that's fine.
Remark on what this lady said. The trees, if you give them music, they become healthy. If I came here 30 years ago, if I came here and I heard you, I would say, give them bread and water before you give them the luxury of music.
Many people thought the same thing.
Now, no, I feel music, I cannot say more important than water and bread, but if we deprive from water and bread, we die in few days. But if we deprive of music, we die slowly. So music is as much as important as food.
It's very important.
Because if you educate people in music, if you encourage them to play music, you keep them away from arguments about religion and politics and all these whatever. The last word I want to say, I forgot. In Aleppo, we say in every house in Aleppo there is lute, oud. So if Arab people have instrument in every house, they are all united on music.
This is so true, yeah. Music actually, just after the earthquake, and even though it has been a year, we know that sometimes, including me, I can't talk about my students that, you know, that they are not here anymore. Some people are still cannot talk about the situation because they lost everything, and it is incredible traumatic situation. But when you go to Hatay, in the container villages, the children, when you sing, they can state their psychology with the music and the verse. You know, they shout, they sing, and it really helps to express themselves. It's an incredible, powerful expression tool, music. So it could be in many, many different ways, many rhythmic patterns, many body also movements. It's right now it is the best remedy of the society.
I can ask one final question. As far as I understand, there are adults and children getting involved in the project. I was wondering their interpretation of the project, how they embrace it, and how they interpret the project, and especially how they interpret the applied ethnomusicology aspect of it, and if you see any possibilities around in the near future to raise local ethnomusicologists who are actually raised within this project, which I think in some ways serves as a hub for such work. Actually.
Yes, actually, this is a very good question. What we set up is Antioch State Conservatory. We have a Turkish music program. Whoever graduates from this Turkish music program, of course, depending on their choice of specialization, you know, in their graduation thesis, some of them want to become ethnomusicologists. There are unfortunately not so many high academic people in our discipline in that region. But as long as people want to study, as MİRAS, we are also making announcement that, you know, they can come, and we are also actually preparing and thinking to set up a certificate program for many ethnomusicologists in the world to also train local Hatay people, whoever wants to specialize in that realm. So we have good number of people who are willing to come Hatay and Istanbul to give trainings. So like Patricia Campbell, she's Gillian Howell, they are expert in post-conflict societies and traumatic societies, and they are music professors, and they have been working with the music, with the children and with young people for many, many decades. And they want to give training programs to local music teachers in Hatay. Because there are also music teachers working and teaching to young children there, but they also are lacking knowledge how to reach out the kids. It is important and very delicate subject. In many different ways, I am thinking what else we can do as MİRAS. Young musicians they are ready. Whatever we need, you know, they want to take role. If it is teaching, they want to teach. And local people, like local authorities, they want to help. But the current situation is so difficult because first the city has to come up. You know, there are no buildings. People are trying to save their houses, and there are regulations changing all the time. And for us, even to go Hatay is difficult because there is no direct flight to Hatay. We have to fly to Adana, and we have to rent a car from Adana to Hatay. There is no transportation, only once in a day, the one transportation. It is quite difficult to do something, but there are so many volunteers also from the day one of the earthquake working and settled in that region in Meydan village, in Meydan Köy, you know, the lady. And many people also are helping, and we are trying to find each other the moment we connect and we become bigger, we get bigger in our works.
But to come back to the question, we are trying to work as much as possible with local people. So we're not trying to fly people in, but we're trying to work with local people. And some local people just want to be good music teachers in schools, and that's fine. But because we're there, because we're mentoring people, and because we're having the discussions, I think people will grow into understanding how this works. Applied ethnomusicologist is hardly guaranteed for fantastic income in Hatay for the next 100 years. But doing this kind of work is something that we really strongly believe in, and worldwide we see what we call community music as a very important new way of dealing with music. So it used to be that we thought about music education as what you do in universities and in conservatoires of music, and now we're seeing that many people are very successful in helping communities find their own voice in expressing themselves. And I think the work that we're doing in Hatay is not us superimposing some kind of music on the people of Hatay.
They don't have to be applied ethnomusicology.
Giving them a voice themselves, and the people that will rise with the work that we're doing with MİRAS, which is still very small now, will show in the next 5 or 10 years who will rise and who will become the leaders of that. We would love to be able to withdraw after a while and say, you can do this by yourselves, you don't need us anymore.
Well, personally, I hope that this project grows by the time. It's actually incredible how much how far you have come, despite all the challenges, including infrastructure and other things. And I hope that this will go beyond non-profit, which I think is very crucial in terms of also creating job opportunities with all these musicians and people who take pride in their heritage and music in Hatay.
Thank you.
I join our audience in thanking you for creating this project. We are very impressed. Thank you all very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Have yourselves with Turkish refreshments today.